everyone, it's Teacher Megan here once again and welcome to my channel. For today, I'll be sharing with you my demonstration teaching experience with all of the faculty of MinSCAT in all campuses, of course, from Bongabong campus, Victoria campus, main campus rather, and Calapan City campus. Just yesterday, Dr. Agutaya and Dr. LV, the deans, asked me to do this demonstration teaching for today's webinar. And of course, yung initial reaction ko, I really cried because I was so scared and I felt like I don't deserve this opportunity. Kasi sino ba naman ako para mag-demonstration teaching sa mga doctors and lahat ng magagaling na faculty ng MinSCAT. Anyway, I'm not that kind of person who says no to opportunity, so I still accepted the challenge, and this time ay i-cover natin ng kumpleto kung paano ko gagawin yung demonstration teaching ko. So, be with me in my online demonstration teaching. Hello everyone, I am Miss Megan and I'll be having my demonstration teaching online as requested by the facilitators. Well, I do not know if I should be the one to do this, but anyway, I'll try my best. So, let's start. So, good morning class. This is Miss Megan and welcome to our course, Grammar and Composition. Learn English everywhere with me. In today's discussion, we will be dealing with modifiers. I know you have your idea about this, but when I say modifiers, I am pertaining to adverb and adjectives. Before we start with our lesson proper, let's have first a short activity, and this is entitled, Tell Me What's Wrong. I want you to engage in this activity class, so you may comment on our chat room. So here goes the mechanics. I will be flashing sentences on the monitor screen. And as the sentence appears, I want you to imagine how the scenario occurs based on how you understand the sentence. Later on, I'll be asking one or two from the class to randomly share your reaction on the situation. Is that clear? Alright, so let's begin. Here's our first sentence. The waiter served a dinner roll to the woman that was well buttered. Again, the waiter served a dinner roll to the woman that was well buttered. Anyone would like to react in this? Sir Frank? What can you say about the sentence? Anything. How did you understand it? Alright. Very good. So it may seem to be confusing because in here there is well buttered and it is supposed to describe the dinner roll and not the woman, right? Next we have they saw a fence behind a house made of barbed wire. Again, they saw a fence behind a house made of barbed wire. How did you understand it? Okay, it sounds ridiculous. Anyone who'd like to share? Have you seen a house that's made of barbed wire? I haven't, so it is very ridiculous. Thank you so much for answering. Next, we have, having been fixed the night before, Priza could use the car. What is your reaction on this? Okay, you're trying to correct the sentence, but based on how we understand it, it seems like it is Priza who was fixed the night before, right? Because the modifier here is placed very close to Priza. So this is very confusing. Those sentences here are flashed once again. The waiter served a dinner roll to the woman that was well buttered. They saw a fence behind the house made of barbed wire. Having been fixed the night before, Priza could use the car. Now, all these sentences have highlighted parts. Now, generally speaking, what is wrong in these sentences? Anyone? Okay, very good. The modifiers here or the phrases are not close to the words they are supposed to modify. So today, we will be discussing about dangling and misplaced modifiers. These are the two common errors whenever we use modifiers. But before, let's have the objectives. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to first identify the role of modifiers in sentences. What do you think are their functions? Why do we use modifiers? Second, spot the misplaced and dangling modifiers in a sentence. Third, rectify errors found in positioning modifiers. So I don't want you to just spot the errors, but what's more important than that is you have to rectify or correct the errors that you find. Next, we have construct meaningful sentences with the correct use of modifiers. And lastly, but it's very important, I want you at the end of the lesson to recognize the value of modifiers in developing thorough sentences. Let's start with uncovering meaning. What do you know about modifiers? Again, what do you know about modifiers? Have you encountered this in the past? I suppose. Yes, mister? Alright, very good. That is correct. A modifier is a word, phrase, or clause that describes, defines, or qualifies something else in a sentence. They include descriptive words such as adjectives and adverbs. So both adjectives and adverbs are parts of speech that are descriptive, or they are words that is used to describe something or someone. Examples of modifiers are, as they use in the sentence, first, Ashley always listens attentively in class. So in the first sample sentence, we have two words highlighted. First is always, second is attentively, and both words describe the verb listens. And since they describe the verb, they are considered adverbs. Again, adverbs are modifiers that describe a verb, adjective, or another adverb. So let's analyze the sentence. Ashley always listens. So it answers the question, how often does Ashley listen? It's always, ma'am. Therefore, always is an adverb of frequency because it answers how often does the verb happen. Next, attentively. And this is also an adverb that describes how the action of listening happened. Okay? And it says that Ashley listens attentively. And since it answers the question how, it is an adverb of manner. Second sentence, my grandfather decided to buy a blue vintage Cadillac. We have four highlighted words here. My, a, blue, and vintage. All these are adjectives because they describe nouns. The first one, my, this may seem to be a pronoun, but in fact this is an adjective because it is a possessive one that shows whose grandfather are we talking about here. So it is my grandfather, so this is an adjective. The same as a, blue, and vintage, all those modify the Cadillac. So since the Cadillac is a noun, these are all modified adjectives rather. Alright, let's continue our discussion. By the way, class, if you have queries or concerns, you are free to tell me, and you may comment also on our chat room. Thank you so much, Doc V and Marian, for your feedback. Okay, let's continue. So earlier, I gave you examples of modifiers that are used. Now this time, we're gonna have modifiers in forms of phrases or clauses. So first, Anna smiled when she walked past the bar where she met her husband. So the highlighted part here is where she met her husband, and this is a phrase or a clause rather that modifies the bar. It is the place where Anna met her husband. Now, next we have, having received a promotion at work, he went out to buy a bottle of champagne. Now in the second sentence, the highlighted part here modifies the person he who went out to buy a bottle. Now how do we know that it is he that is modified by our phrase? Because it is close next to the modifier. Now here are the common errors and ways to rectify them. You have already an idea on how these errors exist in sentences. Now let us try to know the solutions. on how we can correct them. So the most common errors in modifier are dangling and misplaced. Again, dangling modifiers and misplaced modifiers. Both terms refer to modifiers that are connected to the wrong thing in a sentence. Let's begin with the misplaced modifiers. When we say misplaced, this is a word or phrase or clause that is improperly separated from the word it modifies or describes. So this is just easy to correct because when this is just improperly placed, then the only way we can correct this is to place it to the word close to it modifies. Because of the separation, sometimes misplaced modifiers can cause awkwardness in the sentence and they become ridiculous or confusing. Sometimes they can be downright illogical. So here is an example of a sentence with misplaced modifier. On her way home, John found a gold man's watch. Now, there is gold here as misplaced modifier. Now, since the word gold is placed before the word man, then we are thinking that it is the man that is literally gold. And since there's no one like that, then there is something wrong with the positioning of modifier. So misplaced modifiers can usually be corrected by moving the modifier to a more sensible place in the sentence. So we correct it by doing this. On her way home, John found a man's gold watch. So this time, it is now the watch that is gold and not the man. Next, we have here a phrase that describes something. The dealer sold the Cadillac to the buyer with leather seats. With leather seats, this is a prepositional phrase because the preposition is with, and we have here an idea of describing something. And since with leather seats is placed next to the buyer, we may think that it is the buyer himself who has leather seats attached to his body. Well, that is impossible. So another error in modifiers. So we can correct it by the dealer sold the Cadillac with leather seats to the buyer. So in here, with leather seats is placed after the Cadillac. So it is the car now with leather seats. And it makes sense now. Can you follow, class? I hope so. Next, we have dangling modifiers. And a dangling modifier is a phrase or clause that is not clearly or logically related to the word or words it modifies. Now, usually, dangling modifiers exist when the one being modified is missing. So there are two notes about dangling modifiers. First, unlike a misplaced modifier, a dangling modifier cannot be corrected by simply moving it to a different place in a sentence because it's not just misplaced, it is missing. In most cases, the dangling modifier appears at the beginning of the sentence, although it can also come at the end. Sometimes the dangling modifier error occurs when the sentence fails to specify anything to which the modifier can refer. So here is an example of a sentence with dangling modifier. Looking toward the west, a funnel-shaped cloud stirred up dust. So the phrase here that modifies is looking toward the west. Now the noun next to that is cloud. And we all know that clouds don't have eyes to do the action of looking. So the question here is, who is looking toward the west? So this is dangling modifier because the noun it modifies is not properly placed in the sentence. So how do we correct dangling modifiers? So we have here two general ways. The first method is you have to leave the modifier as it is and just change the main part of the sentence so that it begins with the term actually modified. Or second is you have to change the dangling modifier phrase by adding the subject and the verb, and you have to leave the rest of the sentence as they are. So from looking toward the west, a funnel-shaped cloud stirred up the dust. We corrected it by placing I saw after the phrase. Looking toward the west, I saw a funnel-shaped cloud stir up the dust. Now, it has a complete thought that it is I who was looking toward the west when I saw this cloud that stir up the dust. Did you understand? Now, before we start an activity, I'll be asking some examples from you. So, let's have Dangling Modifier. Sir Frank, would you like to give an example of Dangling Modifier?
Another example of Dangling Modifier. Dancing under the rain. The rainbow suddenly appeared.
Okay, very good. That's a correct example, Sir Frank. Thank you so much. Now, in your sentence, dancing under the rain, the rainbow suddenly appeared. Now, the modifier in that sentence is dancing toward the rain. Now, the noun next to that is the rainbow when it suddenly appeared. Well, the rainbow cannot dance, so meaning to say it is not the rainbow that dancing under the rain modifies. So, what should it be? Like, who is the one modified? So, to correct that, you may add a subject, okay, next to the modifiers dancing under the rain. Can anyone do that? How are we going to correct that sentence with dangling modifier? Okay, very good. That's correct. I think you are now ready to do an activity to try your understanding. So here goes the direction. Correct any dangling modifiers in the sentences below by keeping the phrase and rewriting the other part of the sentence so that the modifier is positioned next to the word it modifies. So I'm giving you 5 minutes to work on this activity, and please do it now. Alright, this time we're gonna check your activity. So now that we're done with the discussion and I received positive feedback from you based on the results that you gave me out of our activity, I'm leaving you now an assignment, and this assignment is entitled Modifier Search. So this is a word hunt puzzle, and in this assignment, I have here a puzzle where you can look for modifiers that you can use for your paragraph. So from the given puzzle, so beside, look for at least 5 modifiers that you can use to construct a paragraph describing the Philippine governance during the COVID pandemic. Place the modifiers on their right position to avoid possible errors. So in doing your activity, your assignment, please be guided by these rubrics for paragraph evaluation. Make sure you develop a good topic sentence with supporting details, organization and transitions, style, and mechanics. So you may just refer to this PowerPoint presentation that I'll be uploading in our Google Classroom. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you learned something, and make sure you comply with our deadline. Bye! So that's it, guys. Katatapos lang ng aking online demonstration teaching, and before the webinar ends, nagkaroon kami ng konting feedback, sharing, and questions na rin about dun sa demonstration teaching ko. And with God's grace, nakaka-overwhelm yung mga positive feedback. Sobrang nakakatuwa lang kasi I was guided, of course, by the Holy Spirit to do this. And kahit na alam kong hindi sapat yung naging oras ng pag-prepare ko dito, ay naging successful pa rin. So thank you so much for being with me, and see you in my next video. Bye!